This doctrine isn't unique to Charles Meade. Coming up, we'll go inside the House of Yahweh, a doomsday group in Abilene, Texas, run by a self-proclaimed prophet named Israel Hawkins.
This is a group in the heart of Texas, and about an hour's drive from the Waco Davidian compound of David Koresh. It's a desolate place, but that's where Hawkins has gathered the faithful in trailers, in his compound, behind guards, waiting out the end. In my opinion, this is one of the most frightening and potentially dangerous groups of its kind in the nation.
Just outside Abilene, Texas, is the House of Yahweh. This bizarre doomsday sect led by a man named Israel Hawkins is preparing for nuclear war. Israel promises to show his followers how to survive, and more importantly, how to get into heaven.
It was the fear that spurred me on. The fear that I would be stuck in radioactive fallout dust, that my poor babies, which at the time were 3, 2, and 1, that my poor babies were going to have to die and suffer through tribulation. Now I've been given the answer on how to protect them. I need to go to the place that Yahweh chooses to establish his name.
The House of Yahweh is a very isolated world within the world. I mean, there's no TV, there's no radio. All there is Hawkins, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Israel Hawkins, whose given name is Buffalo Bill Hawkins, also claims to be one of the 2 witnesses mentioned in the New Testament as witnesses that would be the precursors to the end of the world.
Israel not only makes prophecies about the end, but gives an exact time frame of when the event will occur.
We're going to have famine, the greatest famine throughout the earth, and you're going to see the severity of mad cow disease, of sexually transmitted diseases, of wars. You're going to see all of them in this few months we've got left. You're going to see what breaking Yahweh's laws causes, what it brings, the curses it brings to mankind.
What do you do when your leader is a prophet and his prophecy doesn't come true? I think it's an illustration of what's been called cognitive dissonance. They will a resolution by accepting whatever Hawkins says as an explanation so that they can consistently continue to live in a world with these inconsistencies. And that's the way the Hawkins people have lived for decades.
Eager to find out more about this secretive group, Rick Ross, wired with a hidden camera, proceeds to the public office of the House of Yahweh.
What is your name?
Rick.
Rick what?
Ross.
June 12, 2008 will be the ending of, will be the bringing forth of the nuclear baby. In other words, there's a woman with, labor pains as a woman with child, right? That's a 9-month period of time, right?
But not this June then, it would be
June.
this June.
2007.
I thought you said 8.
Well, I might have.
Oh, okay, all right. And so when that nuclear baby comes into the world, what would happen?
Well, by then, the war in which a third of man over the 4th part of the earth will be killed.
Well, would that mean that Mr. Hawkins was a false prophet if on June of this year it doesn't happen?
Let me ask you this. If there was a man who was sent by Yahweh, told to go somewhere and do a job, says, I don't want to go, he gets thrown off the ship, gets swallowed by a big fish, Yahweh says, go tell him only 40 days and Nineveh will be overthrown. And he goes in and tells them he didn't want to do it, right? He didn't want to do it, but he did it, and they repented. Would that make Jonah a false prophet?
So you're saying
You answer my question, I'll answer yours.
I don't know. I would have to say yeah, it would, because if he made a prophecy and it doesn't occur, that would be a false prophecy. And you're saying that if you give a false prophecy, it isn't really false.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why are you here?
Yet long before Israel Hawkins began making prophecies, he had other, more earthly responsibilities.
Bill was a policeman. He had been on the force for 9 years with the city of Abilene. And he ran the mobile home park up until 1977. Bill started the work in Abilene in 1980.
Israel Hawkins' ex-wife Kay helped start the House of Yahweh as a place of study and worship and contributed to the first Book of Yahweh Bible.
When the House of Yahweh first started, it was strictly the teachings from the Bible.
In 1993, Kay learns of Israel's infidelity. Things at the House of Yahweh soon begin to change.
This is the first edition of the House of Yahweh. Reading 1 Timothy 3 and 2 says, "An elder then must be blameless, the husband of one wife." In the 7th edition of the House of Yahweh, this same scripture says, "An elder then must be blameless in unity as husband and wife." The scripture was changed to represent the doctrine that's now being taught, which is a man can have more than one wife.
It's become a kind of holy act within the House of Yahweh. First Hawkins, the prototype of the man of God, and then the followers cloning the behavior of the leader. So what you have is a group that has polygamy.
The women were grieving, and the men were snorting around like stallions, seeking whom that they could take. The spiritual darkness, you could see it descending on it.
Because of her vocal opposition to the practice of polygamy, Kay is excommunicated from the group in 1994.
I have heard that he has over 20 children now by young women who are giving birth to his children without a document of marriage.
Along with polygamy come even more disturbing accusations.
They stop appearing the children at the age of 12 to be given to men.
They came and said, as soon as your daughter turns 12, we want her to start going through these certain rules and regulations for cleansing her to get her ready to be with the king. And that scared me.
Yet questioning is frowned upon. Members are encouraged to give up their will to the group.
As people become involved with the group, their allegiance to the leader, their submission to the leader, and the leader's definitions about the world become the most important things, the central things in their life.
In an act of extreme devotion, members agree to change their last names to Hawkins.
The name change was something that we were told was a scriptural thing, and it had to be done. If you didn't do it, you couldn't be part of the kingdom.
But this was also, in my theory, to give all the illegitimate children there a legal last name, because there are children now being born of these arrangements. Now all the children have the last name of Hawkins.
And in this sense, Hawkins has stamped himself on them with his own name, and they've all become his. It's an expression maybe of megalomania, but more importantly of ownership.
Many followers buy small trailers from Israel Hawkins and live on or near the compound. They live in squalor, while their leader appears to live like a king.
He has so many houses and so much land. He's just so rich now. But yet at the same time, when I drive by the holdings that I see on the highways, I see poor people living in tiny little mobile homes. And he has, I know of 3 houses that are just almost mansions.
Kenaiah Hawkins, a former member, still owns property just minutes from the House of Yahweh compound, property he and his family called home for 10 years.
I put every screw in this building by myself. I lived in here for almost 10 years with my wife and 7 children. Basically, we have thousands of cords of firewood, shelters ready to be put in the ground for tornado shelters and/or bomb shelters. I probably have, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them out here. We have some out back. so that when the multitudes come here, they have a place to get out of the shelter from the nuclear fallout dust that was going to be coming to destroy them all.
Kanaya takes us inside the trailer he hasn't seen in the last 3 years.
My oldest son slept out here, on top of food storage, and on top of buckets. There's a little over 1,000 cans of jack mackerel in this house. This is all food storage, fish food storage, that we need to have those things for us. There's buckets of honey. There's cans of juice. There's more down there too. More jack mackerel. Literature everywhere, all literature, House of Yahweh literature. Newspapers for Birdom Seed. End times, the end. There's your nuclear war, the earth being blown up. Here's your standard scripture, your standard, of course it's called the Book of Yahweh. It's your standard Holy Scripture. It's their authorized version. Here's some more tapes. More sermon tapes, tape after tape. So I'll show you back here where we all stayed. There's 5 girls there, 5 girls there, and 4 of them was in their own little room in the very back. This was the one room with the mom and the dad stayed. This was a bed made out of jack mackerel cans. We go all the way over to there. Yeah, we have some heights there. I think there's 5 foot 1 inches was the oldest. None of them got bigger than that while they were here, so they all fit in the little cubbies, which is an embarrassment to even show, but you know, you got to do it so people don't know.
Israel Hawkins keeps his people very busy preparing for the end of the world. He actually believes that Abilene, Texas is the core place that will be the place of safety for this final time of unspeakable suffering and judgment upon all of humanity.
When God's up there talking to you and you believe that he's the anointed, it doesn't really matter what he says.
You can get on the tape list for $3 a tape, and what they tell you is to listen to it day and night. You should never be without a tape playing.
Everything outside of what we were taught here was actually devil worship. The beastly governmental system is against you. It's not here to help you, it's against you. It's going to put a computer chip in your hand, a computer chip in your forehead. You'll have the mark of the beast.
It's a rather guarded, carefully controlled world in which associations with the outside are very limited.
A doomsday group called the House of Yahweh has a compound in Abilene, Texas. Our producer takes you inside with a hidden camera. What she finds is a poverty-stricken group steeped in paranoia and fear, where women are subservient to men, and whose leader rules over all.
Hello. Can I help you? Yes, I'd like to go to one of the services I think you're having right now. Greet you, Korea.
Yahweh, I'm sorry that we kind of weren't expecting you.
I know, that's okay. I thought it was sort of free for visitors to come in.
Well, it is.
Because it says welcome and all that.
Yeah, it is, but usually when they call, they're told, you know, that you got to bring an extra pair of shoes.
I didn't know.
We're going to spray yours off real well at the door.
Okay.
Come in the spray too, so we're just going to spray your hand.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Come with us.
Nice to meet you too.